Christianity alone is not enough to speak on the role, education, the role of the religion in educational institutions, because other religions have also played an important role. Like Jainism, we have got education institutions which have been run by Jains. We have got educational institutions run by the Muslims, so on. So let me specifically talk about the role of Christianity in educational institutions. I've taken some of the expert of Dr. M.D. Thomas, who's the founder of Director Institute of Harmony and Peace Studies. He has made a thorough research on the role of Christianity in educational institutions, and I do agree to his research, and I would like to add to it. Now, what he has said is Christians are originators of education as a private venture with government aid or without aid. So whether the Christian institution, right from school to colleges to universities, whether they have received funds from the government or not, they have provided education, imparted education. And a good number of Christian colleges were granted autonomous status, which emerged as deemed universities. We have got many of them. And Christian missionaries in India have written many books in philosophy, religion, literature, language, art, culture, agriculture, and cross-cultural areas, and so on. So Christian contribution is a lot in when it comes to education. Okay, the slide is why doesn't it? I continue. Of late, there's hardly any area where the Christian community, especially its committed group of priests and nuns, has left untouched. So, whether it is priests or nuns, they have dedicated their lives in providing education through various Christian education institutions. Specifically, I would like to mention about the Jesuits. The Jesuits number over 18,000. They are engaged in ministries in 112 nations in 6 continents. Their work is focused on education and intellectual contributions, primarily at colleges and universities, as well as missionary work and ministry in human rights and social justice. The contribution of the Christian community to nation building through educational efforts is obviously very extraordinary. Now, let me talk about the freedom of religion under the Indian Constitution, because we all have got the freedom of religion under the Indian Constitution. And how do we exercise this freedom of religion in the nation building process? As already mentioned, right to freedom of religion is there from Article 25 to Article 28. Now it begins with restrictions, because the restrictions which are being prescribed in the Indian Constitution, they ensure the nation building. For example, let me talk about the provision of Article 25. Subject to public order, health and morality, every person in India is equally entitled to freedom of conscience, freedom to profess, practice and propagate religion. Now, as you can see on the slide, it begins with a restriction, subject to public order, health and morality. Now, when we talk about our right to religion, we cannot exercise our right to religion in such a manner where there can be public disorder. And whenever we exercise this right in such a manner where it causes public disorder, the state's interference would be there. And we cannot fight against the state saying that you are interfering in my religion. Let me give you one example of public order. Religious violence. In the name of religion, we cannot have the acts of genocide being committed. We have got many instances of violence against religious minorities in India. Like the Gujarat incidents, we have got in Odisha, the fundamental rights against the Christians in Odisha. Then we had the Sikh rights in 1984 against Sikh community. Now these are all a kind of targeted violence against a specific community that was a religious community. So if such acts have been committed against a particular religion, in the name of religion, is causing public disorder. And therefore, we should be very careful while exercising our right to religion. Health. Now, health is very important of all the people in our country, which is already mentioned in Article 21 of the Constitution, right to life, which includes a sound health of all the people, all the persons in India, whether it is citizens or foreigners in India, they have been ensured with right to life. And if anybody encroaches upon their right to life, that is the state, there is a writ petition can be filed. And if the citizens do it, there are laws where we can make the citizens liable. So how, while exercising our religion, how we can affect the health of the people? For example, when it comes to noise pollution, I cannot exercise my right to religion in such a manner with loudspeakers causing disturbance to the people in the vicinity. Like the preachings in the churches, the ringing of bells in the temples, the azan that is being done by the Muslims in the mosque. We cannot be using very loud speakers to disturb the people in the vicinity. This will definitely cause noise pollution and it will affect the health of the people in that vicinity. Therefore, here the state will interfere. And we have got various acts to make the religious persons liable for this act. So therefore, health is again one of the restrictions while exercising a right to religion. Morality. Now when we talk about morality, we also cannot exercise our right to religion in such a manner where immoral practices are being adopted. Now, we all have, under the right to religion, the conversion. Any person can get converted to another religion. But if conversion is for selfish desires, then it is immoral. I'll come to this point later on in the next slide. Some of the people, there was a particular instance where the people belonging to a particular religion, they were going in a procession and they were carrying with them swords and weapons and they were having a garland of skulls taking the procession on the road. And when the people saw this, they got, of course, frightened and they got disturbed. And it was like not professing a particular religion. It is like certain negative spirits that they are into. And this is immoral. So the state will object to such immoral practices in a religion while you're exercising certain religions. Then every person is equally entitled, as I said, freedom of conscience. Of course, all these are the belief, faith, and worship, which is mentioned also in the preamble. And specifically, we have it in the Constitution. Now begin the right. First, it begins with the restriction and then the rights. That is freedom of conscience and freedom to profess, practice, and propagate any religion. Now coming to the next slide, that is what could be the mechanisms of nation building and the role of religion through the framework of the Indian Constitution. Here, we all know that in the process of nation building, the rights of the women and the children are very important because women, it is said that the progress of a country will depend on how much the rights of the women are being protected, how much the women are being empowered in a country. So protecting the rights of the women is very important. And how does religion plays a role in protection of the rights of the women? And also the children, because children are the assets of the nation. And how religion plays an important role in protecting the rights of the children. I've taken a few examples through laws and the practices which were being adopted in certain religions and how these practices were considered as very bad practices which will not ensure the protection of the right of the women and children and other aspects also. And therefore we have abolished these practices. Now the people of a particular religion need to be tolerant while the state interferes in your religion for nation building processes, because we all have right to religion. We cannot have a fundamentalist approach. Whatever is wrong in our religion, we'll go on with that. No. We need to the state can interfere in your right to religion. And when the state interferes in your right to religion, we need to be tolerant. Therefore, our duty is not only act of commission to do something in the name of religion for nation building processes, but to also abstain from doing negative acts in the process of nation building. So here, the acquisition, like one example I've taken, that acquisition of religious property for public purposes under Land Acquisition Act. The property, for example, the property of the church or the temple or the mosque or any other religious places, if they have been taken, they have been acquired by the state for public purposes, nobody can say, no religious leaders, no religious persons can say no to it, because it is used for in the larger interest of the public. And when we talk about the utilitarian principle, the Bentham's principle, maximum happiness of people. So therefore, at the cost of violation of the right of religion, your your right can be violated for the greater interest of the public at large. And therefore, when our property is being taken, the religious property is being taken by the state, we need to have a tolerant approach for it. We need to allow the state to do it because it is for public purposes. I've taken examples of certain religion and how certain immoral practices were being abolished, which were against the rights of the women, certain were against the rights of the children. That was to ensure that it is necessary in the nation building processes. Now, the abolition of practice of sati, which was a very important tradition in the Hindu religion, this is against the Indian constitution. How? Article 14 talks about right to equality. Now, what is the practice of sati? When the husband dies, the wife of that husband has to jump into the pyre of that husband. It is like a suicide, she has to commit. This is against equality because when the wife dies, the husband does not jump into the pyre of the wife. So this is discrimination under Article 14. And more than discrimination, it is violation of the right to life which has been guaranteed under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Therefore, this practice was considered as immoral and it was abolished. It was against the rights of the women. And for this, there were various social reformers like Rajaram Mohan Roy, who had fought for bringing this particular act into being. We have the Commission of Sati Prevention Act 1987, and by this, the practice of sati is being abolished. Anybody who obeys the practice of sati is being liable under the Indian Penal Code as an abater. Secondly, the prohibition of child marriages. In the Hindu tradition, the child marriages were permanent. Whenever there is child marriages, obviously it is going to be detrimental to the development of the child and the nation at large, because children are the assets of the nation. And if their health has been affected, their development has been affected, it will definitely affect the nation building process. And therefore, we have enacted a law for prohibition of child marriages. And this is through the Prevention of Child Marriage Act 2006. Now, the concept of monogamy has become very important in almost all the religion and been accepted in almost all the religion, because in Hinduism, the practice of polyandry and polygamy was there. But on the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the practice of monogamy is being done. And therefore, the practice of monogamy now is the essence of the Hindu religion. It is there in Christianity and the other religion, except in Islam, where the Muslim male is allowed to have more than one wife. Then the abolition of untouchability and so on, because caste system in Hinduism that was considered as unequal practices. And therefore, we have the Provision of Civil Rights Act 1955. And the others, in Islam, we have got Maintenance to Muslim Divorce Women's Act under Section 125 CRPC to maintain uniform civil code. the Muslim lady can also claim maintenance under Section 125 CRPC. Earlier, she could not claim it. And triple talaq, which is punishable. All of you know that the Muslim Women Protection of Rights from Marriage Act 2019 recently was being passed, where the this kind of triple talaq, which was practiced in the Muslim religion, that is being abolished now. And conversion to Islam for selfish ends, that is also not applicable now. We have got various case laws. Because of constraint of time, I will not be able to take the case laws. And in Christianity, Section 10 of the Indian Divorce Act 1869 is in consonance with the Indian Constitution now. Because for a Christian lady or divorced lady to get divorced, she had to prove adultery along with another ground like cruelty or desertion, etc. But now, merely on the ground of adultery, she can claim divorce. Now, we have got certain fundamental duties under the Indian Constitution. This also ensures in the nation building process. Now, we have got 11 fundamental duties under the Indian Constitution. And to preserve natural environment, I have taken the role of religion. Just I'll give you a glimpse of it. In Islam, Islam prohibits the excessive consumption of resources the planet provides for humanity. This is mentioned in Quran in different verses. Then in Hinduism, it is mentioned in Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and the Hindu scriptures. And in Jainism, we find that it is also mentioned in various doctrines focused on peaceful and disciplined life, kindness to animals, vegetarianism, and self-restraint with avoidance of waste are parts of Jain life. In Sikhism, also the Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee, that is the SGPC, and this organization makes decisions for global Sikh community, especially on environment. In Judaism, we have got in Genesis, that is the Old Testament, chapter 1, that is verse 29, and God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb yielding seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is fruit of your tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food." And in Buddhism, we have got the Dhammapada, chapter 4, that is, as a bee, without harming the blossom, its color, its fragrance, takes its nectar and flies away, so should the sage go through a village. That means it talks about sustainable development. Okay, we can exploit the environment, but not at the cost of development. Then in Christianity, when they had enough to eat, Jesus Christ said, He said to His disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over, that nothing be wasted." So wastage in environment is detrimental to sustainable development. And I would like to conclude. The role of religion is definitely to collaborate actively in the development of this country by producing a change of mentality, and it cultivates and encourages the virtues which are necessary for the development, a sense of justice and human fraternity. And I quote John Fielden, who says that nation building is the heart of religion. On this note, I give a food for thought. What are we doing as citizens? Are we exercising our right to religion in the process of nation building? Let's have a thought about it. And let us all contribute in exercising our right to religion for the process of nation building. I thank all the organizers, that is S.I.S.R. and also Vincent College of Commerce, for organizing this webinar. Thank you very much.